Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, welcome to the Plant Wisdom Podcast, Amy. I'm thrilled to have you on and talk about the earth and plants and what you do in your amazing work with that. So, my first question for you, which I love because I totally believe in this and I can't wait to hear your insight, is can trees communicate with us?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to chat with you. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't something that I was taught as a child. And I think most of us, culturally, that's not something that we grow up being aware of or learning. And so that was a real kind of eye-opening experience for me when it started happening very spontaneously when I would be out walking in nature in my neighborhood, and I started receiving messages. For me, it was almost like thoughts in my head that I didn't put there,
Mhm.
or kind of whispers of information. And it took me a little bit to figure out, but it was the trees that were sending me messages and trust me. And so, really in that process, it made me question, like, can I talk back? Can I communicate with them as well? And so, yeah, that really led me on this journey that I've been on. But absolutely, they can communicate. It's just in a different way than we think of with language. It's all very telepathic, which is how most of the natural world is communicating with each other all of the time. And so when we're willing to kind of, drop the language and shift into communication in with all of our other senses, then it's like a whole nother world opens up to us.
So true, so true. They do communicate telepathically, and I don't know if you've heard this, but I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. Like I've heard that trees, when you walk in the forest or anywhere with like a lot of trees and they start like swaying near you, that they're like waving hello to you. And whenever I heard that, I was like, that feels so right.
Yeah, it's really cool to see, especially when you come into an area and everything is very still, and then it all of a sudden, really, a breeze comes up, or just one specific breeze comes through and then stops. I have one spot on the property where I live where I had received a message that I should hang some wind chimes back there, and almost every time, like I go back there, they go tink tink tink, like
I love
saying
that.
hello.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. So tell me and my listener how you got started in your work with the plants. I know you started a blog and then that blossomed, but what called you to do this?
Yeah, I mean, it was really a process over, a long period of time or a number of years. And, I had, a time where I was, learning how to meditate and doing, kind of that type of thing. And, but really hadn't gone any deeper, was really just kind of exploring, like, what does it mean to use my intuition, or, those types of questions. And initially, just I started having these really unusual encounters with hawks. And they would just come really close to me or interact with me in an unusual way, where it wasn't like I hadn't seen them in my environment before, but it was happening so regularly that it just made me start asking more questions. I mean, like, is somebody trying to send me a message? Like, what is happening? And it was in asking those questions that kind of took me down a deeper path. And ultimately, I received a message that I should move to where there was pine trees and water. And my husband and I talked about it and decided we were open to a move. We didn't know where that meant or where that was going to be. And just kind of said, if wherever the fit is right, we're open. And in just a matter of months, we ended up moving to Northwest Montana, which neither of us had ever been to before. We didn't have any family here. We didn't know anybody. It was just really just did it. And, and it turned out to be a great decision. We love it here. But it was after that move, that was when really, again, like the tree messages started coming into me. And it really was a matter of just exploration on my own for quite a while, just kind of trying to figure out like, what are the messages? Why are they? How can I talk back? What's happening with nature communicating? And that's when I started the blog, really, which was initially not really meant for, anyone else. It was just me kind of keeping track of um, unusual things that were happening to me or things that were coming in my dreams or all of these different things. And so, but the more I wrote on it and the more I shared, the more people started finding it. And I started getting messages from people saying, this is happening to me too. And so that really encouraged me to like, keep going. There's something, there's something here. And there's more to learn. And so that's really, really how I got started.
That's so cool. And you took a leap of faith. You listened to your intuition to be closer to trees. And I resonate so much with having a spiritual awakening and hawks just coming out of nowhere. And I was like writing this the other day in my book. I'm like, I never saw hawks before this. I never would like look up in the sky, and now I see them all the time, like on the highway or, just on a hike. And it's like, that was not happening. So there are definitely signs from above.
There certainly is. And, obviously when you name your blog or your business following hawks, like everyone shares their hawk stories with you. And so
Yeah.
I hear a lot of hawk stories, and I've come to believe like they have to be, involved in the awakening of humanity, right? Like they must have a
Yes.
role related to that, because there's so many situations where, it could be any other bird or any other animal, but it's the hawks for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I've tried to figure out why too. I'm like, I don't get it. Maybe it's because they have this higher vantage point. I don't know, but it just feels magical when you see hawks. So I love that that was how you
Definitely.
connected with so many people and they found you. And I have so many questions about what you do with the spirits of the land. Like this is something I've been looking more into recently. So who are the spirits of the land and what do they do? Because I know you can like work with them and communicate with them and take care of them. So how does that work and who are they?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a broad group of spirits when you say the spirits of the land. And I kind of put them into a variety of categories, and they're here, they're on the land, they're living on the earth, just kind of in a different plane of existence than we are. So whether we acknowledge them or not, they're here working and doing their thing. And when we work together with them is when, the magic happens. But, I kind of break them down into a couple of groups. So the main kind of one that I always engage with first, if I'm connecting with a property, I call the keeper of the land. And it's really just a spirit that oversees an area that's bigger than just where your house is. So it's usually like the whole neighborhood. So, and sometimes they'll show me on a map, like how far their influence goes, but just kind of think of it as being like neighborhood sized. And so that's the spirit that just has the lay of the land and knows kind of what's happening everywhere. So if there's something weird kind of happening energetically where you live, but you're not sure where it's coming from, like that spirit probably knows. Because if it's some weird energy from, water that was, relocated or tampered with, half a mile away, or something weird happening at a neighbor's house that energetically is bleeding over, like that's a spirit that usually can explain what's going on and give you an overview. After that, I usually speak with the ancestor spirits, and some places have a stronger influence with the ancestor spirits than others. It just depends on kind of how that area was used, what type of things happened in that area. If you think of just the history of humans on the land, can go back a long, long ways. And so, typically the ancestor spirits in any given place are kind of, the indigenous spirits of that area. And sometimes they'll oftentimes they just tell me like how they use the area. So sometimes they'll just say, oh, we just passed through here, or this would be a hunting place, or a fishing place. But sometimes it's like, no, this was a ceremonial place, and now there's like a shopping mall here, you
Yeah.
know? And so they can kind of let you know how the land has changed, or if there was trauma on the land, or those types of things. Especially that's contributing to how the energy feels today. And then you also have all of the spirits that are more like things you can see. So like plant spirits, tree spirits, rock spirits, all of those types of things. So you can always connect with those energies they're also doing a lot of energetic work for the location, and will let you know what they need or what they want, which a lot of times I always say trees like offerings. So I always ask, if a tree
Oh,
comes forward in a reading, I always, want to say, oh, what kind of offering would you like? And sometimes it's just, come and sit with me, or sing me a song,
oh.
or, that type of thing. So, yeah. And then there can be all kinds of other, energies and spirits. There can be, star beings, there can be fairies, there can be, elementals, there, just it really depends on the individual location. So it's always an adventure for me too, to learn about new things and find new energies that I haven't come across before.
Yeah, that's incredible. So are you connecting with those spirits and channeling them in your sessions, in your work? Is that how that works?
Yeah. So really, I work from a shamanic point of view. And so I tend to use Shamanic Journey
Mhm.
to connect with those spirits. And, within the kind of framework of shamanism, you have usually the three worlds that you journey to, right? The upper world is usually where, the angels and crossed over loved ones and those types of energies are. The lower world being a lot more like earth spirits, animals, that type of thing. But the middle world, a lot of times people stay away from, because it's also where earthbound spirits are, and that type of thing. But
Mm,
it's where we live, we live in the middle world, but that's where all of the spirits of the land are as well. And so, through Shamanic Journey, you can connect with them, and, find out what's going on where you live, and, how you can work with them really to improve the energy, and improve kind of just the quality of the area that you live in.
that's so powerful. And I've found Shamanic Journey, I've been using that a lot recently. That is really powerful. Like when I started doing it, with drumming, and I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna work. And then it's like you really do get connected to these different worlds. So that's a great tip on how to start,
Yeah.
cultivating that connection. So how do you know a place in nature needs healing? This is also fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, we probably all have visited places, whether it's an actual like home or building, or actually just a place on the land, where you just really kind of get a feeling like something's not right here. And certainly, for those of us who are empathic and can pick up, feelings in our bodies, which a lot of people who are sensitive to energy just naturally do. Um, Oftentimes you'll feel it in your body. You'll just be like, I feel sick to my stomach here. I'm feeling really anxious. My heart's racing. My head hurts. All of those different
Mhm.
kinds of things. Oftentimes you'll feel in your body. But yeah, otherwise, it's kind of a general feeling like something's off, something's not right here, something feels out of sorts in some way. And usually that's when you can connect with the energies then and say, what am I picking up? What am I feeling? What's going on here? And they can kind of help fill in the blanks.
That's very helpful. That's a good way of tuning into yourself and your environment to see like what's mine and what's the environment. Like when you notice that's only showing up that you go to that place, like that you're having those kind of issues and that you're picking up on that too. So that's really helpful to understand.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, we dismiss those things, or we do think it's us. Like, I felt fine 5 minutes ago and now my stomach hurts. Well, probably, it's that you're picking up an energy around you, and not that all of a sudden your stomach hurts. So the more we can kind of learn to not just tune into our bodies, but really trust that our bodies, that's the telepathic communication. And that's, that's our bodies receiving that information in a way that's different than just, words hitting your ears.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's just so powerful to think about. We're always communicating with the land we live on, even if we're inside, or, that we're always in that telepathic communication, and how we can tune into that to support ourselves, to support nature. I love that. I love being connected in that way. So this is also really new to me. So I would love to know, how did you open 7 portals on the land where you live? Because I would love to understand. I've been learning about portals recently, and like, you can make a portal of light to help any animals that have been like hit by a car move through
Yeah.
to the other side. So I want to know, how did you open 7, and what were those for?
Yeah, it was quite the adventure. It's really interesting because, and there's all kinds of different portals, and I've learned so much in working with these about just portals in general, because certainly um, they're all different and they have kind of different types of qualities. And so a lot of times people think of portals more in like a negative connotation, or like that they're letting in, spirits, and they can. I mean, absolutely. But portals just have a frequency, and so the things that can pass through them have to align with that frequency. And so if they're just not as high vibration, they can let in stuff into your house that you don't want in your house. And so that's one kind of portal that oftentimes those are the ones that either need to be closed, or some work needs to be done on them to increase their vibration, so that higher vibrational beings are who's moving through them. However, there oftentimes are these ones that are, outdoors, not in your house, not really interacting with humans all that much. And the reason that ultimately there were 7 opened here was, after doing the work with the land that I have for a number of years, the energy and the frequency really was a match. And so, they could have been opened elsewhere. And obviously there are portals like this all over the place, but it worked to be able to do it here. So initially, so there's one place on our property that would show itself to me kind of like in my mind's eye or in meditation on a regular basis. And I would see it, but I wouldn't get any information about it. And then I would go back there and I would stand there and be like, okay, I'm here. Like, what do you want to tell me about this place? And like for 2 years, nothing came through. And then all of a sudden, it was just before the winter solstice a couple of years ago, I got a message that like there is a portal here that wants to be opened. And I did probably what a lot of people do, which is like, I don't really know about opening portals. I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm not sure I will know how to do that. And, ultimately, like when these things are coming through, like we do know how to do them. We're remembering from other lifetimes and other dimensions that we're working in. Like we know how to do this work. That's why we're being asked to do it. And so it really was kind of a matter of trust on my part that like the information was going to come through to me. I was given kind of step by step, here's what you need to do to get the energy moving in this way. And I followed along, and it was very interesting. And after the first one was open, maybe a week or so, then I got additional guidance that there were 6 more that wanted to be opened as well. And so, I really just followed their lead, followed the spirits of the land and the energies that were working with them. But it was really interesting because the actual purpose of them was that, as the earth is changing and we're going through this ascension process, and the earth is, is ascending as well, and we're, as a planet and a species, we're connecting back with a lot of the universe that we've been disconnected with for, thousands and thousands of years. And so what was happening was different energies were kind of opening up their portals for other energies to use. And so and it was kind of an experiment. Like they wanted to see, and they've since told me, because things have shifted and changed in the last few months since this last winter solstice. And so I was kind of asking, like, why do things feel different? What's going on? And they were explaining, well, that was kind of like the advanced team. Like they were coming in to negotiate and figure out how all of this, all of it, how it was going to work for all these energies coming into Earth and, sharing this space. And so on the December 2020 solstice, which was also the grand conjunction, it was like a new system, the Stargate system opened up, and which is really similar. It's also a portal, but it's almost like Earth opened for business in a different way than it had been before. It's like open for the general public now. And so, so all of the kind of separate portals have all just kind of like collapsed into this one Stargate portal now, but which does not need a lot of tending from me. It's all kind of, handled in spirit land, but yeah, lots and lots of changes with Earth energies these last couple of years.
That's exciting. I mean, I love how you said that the Earth is also ascending with us. Like, it's not just us, like we're all going through that process. And thank you for creating those portals, because that is really important work that I think people don't realize that can help this ascension process of doing these things on an energetic level. And I think I've heard of portal like battles like that people are doing. Like, I don't know, that seems like a whole other level, but
I haven't been involved in that.
Yeah. I think like that's what you're saying though, like they can be negative portals too. And I think I've been actually on some land where there was like a negative portal, and I had no intuitive awareness at this time, but the people I was with said it did, and they did this whole process of like closing it and whatnot. So it can go both ways, but I love that you created these new like energy sharing portals. And is this similar to grid work? That was going to be because I've heard of grid work of like helping with ascension too.
Yeah, the grid work is slightly different, but it's all of these things are just pieces of the Earth's energy system, right? So they're all kind of connected in certain ways. But I do, before I was working with portals, I was doing a lot of grid work, and I still do. And really, the Earth has an electromagnetic grid within the Earth, and there's another one kind of outside the Earth. And the one inside the Earth in particular, I work with more often. And it's really just because over the years, the grids have been altered, moved, broken, tampered with, you name it, as you can imagine over space and time. And so really a lot of the grids are either, purging old energy, new energy is coming in and being held, things are being reconnected. And it is all same thing, part of this ascension process and the Earth shifting and changing. And so a lot of times it's just helping to shift and move energy from one location to another. If it's, there's too much here and there's not enough there, or, this highway, when it got constructed, cut a grid off, like, can it be reconnected? And so, so it's things like that. But oftentimes you'll find that portals or vortexes of energy are happening in places where grids are crossing. So it's kind of related in that way. But again, it's like part of the whole Earth's energetic structure. All these pieces fitting together.
That's really helpful to understand the difference and how they're connected as well. It's just so fascinating to me. Like, we can support the Earth and our ascension process by connecting with these energetic patterns and portals. So I love this question, this next question. Why are basements so creepy? And am I just imagining that they're full of ghosts? Because I fully stand by that. Like every basement is so creepy. And is that where ghosts like to hang out or something?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oftentimes, not like specifically naturally, but oftentimes, what's really happening is just that it is a natural kind of gathering spot, plus it's in the earth in that way. But 9 times out of 10, it's because nobody told them they can't be there. And so it's another one of those things that's like, I think movies and TV have kind of like ruined us for, like, so it's like they get it 50% right, but then 50% they try to scare you or,
Yeah.
change the story or something like that. And so I think what has been created is a scenario where most of us are frightened because we don't understand it. We don't know if it's true. And because we think that these other energies can, somehow do something to us and that we're not in control. And so once we understand that, in fact, like as human beings incarnated on Earth, we are connected to source energy. And so what we commonly refer to as ghosts are just other human beings that have passed away, and they didn't make it through that portal, right? That they didn't go to the light. And so because of that, they are here until they have an opportunity to cross over. There is a small handful who are here on purpose and have some kind of agenda of some kind, but it's such a small percentage.
Mhm.
Most every one of these spirits you come across are usually spirits that are just confused. They don't know they passed away, or they do, but they don't know how to get somewhere else. So when you start thinking them of as like, oh, this is just somebody's mother or somebody's child or somebody's brother, like, it takes some of the charge out of it. Like they just need a little bit of assistance, and sometimes a little counseling to let them know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
So in the meanwhile, they are here. They are also, like I said, in the middle world. And the downside of having them hanging around your house, if they have passed away and haven't crossed over, is that they are not connected to source energy anymore, and because they
Mhm.
do no longer have a body. And so they have to continue getting energy from somewhere, and the only way to do that is from a human being. And so again, it's usually not malicious in any way, shape, or form. They just don't have a choice. And so if you have a bunch of ghosts hanging around in your house, like it's going to be a drain on your energy, and over time it can be a significant drain on your energy. And so I usually, a lot of people are like, but I like my ghost that hangs around. I have a nice ghost, or it's a family member that I like having around. It's like, that's great. They can come back after they've crossed over and gotten reconnected, with source energy, and then they could come visit you all they want. But in the
Yeah.
meanwhile, it's not the best idea to have them hanging around your house.
Oh my gosh, that is so helpful to understand. And you just reminded me, like going back to that story I was telling you where I was somewhere, it was in an Airbnb and we closed that portal, but there was this
Mhm.
spirit that we helped. Meanwhile, I was like not intuitive at all, so I had no idea what was going on. But we, like the people I was with, like helped this soul cross over that was really like stuck. And it was like this 2 hour long process of like communicating with them, like that they can go to the light. And I just got chills because I'm just like realizing the extent of what that meant now. But it's like
Yeah.
we should be helping them, instead of like
Yeah.
being afraid of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. And everyone is different. I find a lot of them move on very easily and very quickly, but it also depends. People whose calling it is to really do what's referred to as psychopomp. If you've ever heard that term, it's really
Mhm.
helping spirits cross over. They're the ones who tend to get the harder cases, usually, because some of them do. They really need some counseling because I mean,
Yeah.
just think about all of the different traumatic situations that happen when people pass away. And it's weird because again, I think we all think, oh, we die and we know exactly what to do or where to go, or it just happens automatically. And all that happens is you just don't have your body anymore. And so that's very confusing if you had a very sudden passing. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times they're in this place where they're very confused, or they're reliving, the same day over and over, or, they're trying to resolve an issue that they have, or resolve an issue with a person, or they don't want to leave a child behind, or, those types of things. So in that case, it can be a very specific process of counseling with this person to really gently explain what has happened and what their options are, and how they can finish this life and cross all the way over.
Yeah, that's good to understand too. And now I'm remembering another thing when I did my Akashic record training years ago. I didn't even like finish it, but I at one point I did help a soul crossover, and like you were saying, I remembered somehow to do it, even though I didn't know how I knew, what I was doing. And like I was with my teacher
Exactly.
and I was like somehow doing it. It was so much easier than this other situation. But like what you're saying, you just need to remember and just follow it, even if it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and that we have lots of spirit support available to us. So, I think we think like, I have to know how to do something, or I have to
Yeah,
figure this out. But I don't know how to do a lot of things that come up, in readings, and I just say, who can help me with this? And an angel will come, or another spirit of the land, or an ancestor, or somebody will step forward and say, either I'm going to show you how to do this, or let's do this together. And so, when we realize we have all of this support available to us, it doesn't, the pressure isn't so heavy on us that like, I have to do this and not screw it up.
right, right. We have all that support we can tap into and have and work with to do that. So I love that. And I know you have an online course, which I'd love to hear you share about, and the other work that you do in your business, because I want my listener to know how they can learn some of these things that we talked about and do this in their own life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my course is called the Earth Tenders Academy, and I really do. I walk you through all of what I know, pretty much, as far as from the basic energy work of how do you protect your energy when you're working in the middle world, in this way? How do you keep your house clear energetically? But then getting much deeper into getting to know the spirits of the land where you live, getting to know the land really well, where you're at, and how to work with it, working with your own ancient ancestors who worked with the land, as well as the ancestors on the land where you are. And then we get into all of the earth energy things like portals and vortexes and grids and all of that type of stuff, and ultimately put it all together into learning how to do healing work with the land. So, which is also, something that I offer as property readings and healing
Oh
work
yeah.
for individual properties. But I teach other people how to do that as well, so they can do it for themselves. They can do it for their friends and family. They can offer it as a service if they would like.
Oh.
And yeah, and that's what we do. We get together on Zoom once a month and practice doing readings on each other's properties as well. And so, yeah, it's a great group, and I would love to have people join me if they feel so called.
Yes, that sounds so fun. And that was going to be my other question too, is if you did the land reading or like the house clearing of the ghosts and things, because I think that's another thing that's like an afterthought for so many people of tending like, your like energetic space too when you move in somewhere new and all that. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone is different. Sometimes, I spend all the time working on the home and I'm not on the land at all. Other times I work with the land and they're not worried about the house at all. And so it's very different for each place. But yeah, basically when I do readings, you give me your address and any specific questions or concerns that you have. And then I do the reading and do all the work on my own, since I'm just like in communication with the spirits. And then I record a video for you when I'm done, just explaining everything that that happened and any messages that came through, and send it off to you.
That's very cool. Very cool. So where can we find you online?
I am at Following Hawks, like the bird, followinghawks.com. And I'm on Instagram as Following Hawks as well. And I have a podcast called The Earth Keepers.
Love that. Yeah, and I love how you like kept the original like following the hawks too, just from that story. Like that's so magical, so beautiful.
Thank you. I know, I don't think I could ever change it.
Yeah, no. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I love talking about this kind of work, and especially with the earth and the plants. So thank you for the work that you're doing and for being here and connecting with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love chatting with you.
Me too.